All right, that's fun. So, podcasting lesson 101 goes something like this. Make sure your laptop is charged before you launch a podcast. That's a good idea. So, we're going to go back and pick up where we left off because it's not that easy. Maybe somebody in Allen Park hacked me or whatever. Um, but we were talking about today's loss and how does this team that looks so bad uh, have a win on the schedule? What do we do now? Right. I picked this team to win 8 games, thanks to my friend Art. I'm still blaming you, Art. Even on the restart of the podcast, you're still getting blamed for me thinking this team can win 8 games. No, truth is, uh, in the preseason predictor show, is I think what we called it. I did have them winning 8 games, maybe 8 or 9 even. But 0-17 guys having a party today. SOL guys thrilled today, right? But that was before all the injuries. And again, right before my podcast, the original launch of it, took a drop. We were talking about the difference between reasons and excuses. So I had a guy reach out, old school email. Hey, on this week's pod, don't make excuses by talking about their injuries. You're making excuses for this bad football team by talking about their injuries. And I appreciated the reach out. Guy's name was Rick. Cool, Rick. I get it. I sent Rick back an email and said, Rick, we can both be right. These two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? The reality is they were an average team at the start of the season, and the injuries make an average team bad, just like a good team can then become average. So we are not necessarily that far apart. I think Rick is more along the line of bash the team, hold them accountable. Rick is the kind of guy that was booing Sheila a few weeks ago. Can't say enough bad things about those people. I get where he's coming from, but I don't know how you can just ignore that. No matter what you think of Jeff Okudah, whether you think he was bad last year or not, you don't know what he was going to be this year. You can act like you do. You can listen to some dude on the radio tell you Jeff Okudah's a bum. He's never going to be anything. You can do that. That just makes you that dude. And I'm fine with you being that dude. But guess what? I'm not that dude, right? I am of the opinion Jeff Okudah was going to get better. I'm of the opinion that it would have helped to have Melon Fonwu, right? Your secondary would be better. And again, before I had the misstep on the original launch of the podcast, the Bobby Prices and AJ Parkers and Jerry Jacobs, I have nothing against any of these guys. We're evaluating a football game. I'm not personally attacking anyone. I'm evaluating the performance of my favorite football team, and those guys are not performing well. That's just the reality. So you can look at that injury list and ignore it if you choose. What you can't do is tell someone like me that that's not a reason for their play. That's not a reason they're playing as poorly as they are. You're wrong. I'm not saying they'd have 5 wins if Okudah, Melon Fonwu, Tyrell Williams, and Decker and Romeo, if all these guys are healthy, they're still just an average team. That's all. Still just an average team. But games like today, like I said, embolden those guys who want to say SOL. It makes guys who want to talk about 0-17 feel better. And before I had the horrible misstep, right? And we're back now, and I'm charged. So lesson 101 in podcasting: make sure your laptop's charged before you launch your pod. Because watching a red light come on your screen and your podcasts drop is not a fun thing. But this is my 3rd year, and that's the first time it's happened. So I feel all right about it. But when you are at the beginning of the season, everybody healthy, at best 8 wins, you can't afford for 5 or 6 of your best players to go down. You just can't. So you can say that kind of stuff if you want to. This is just going to be a grind because right now they might be the worst team in football. That's harsh. They might be the worst team in football right now. But let's not ignore the injury report, right? That's why. That's why. But this is why, by the way, today in a game I thought at the beginning of the year they would have won, in a game that I thought watching it today, early on, Cincinnati gave them every opportunity to stay in this game. And they just chose not to. They chose to play as poorly as they've played all year for an entire 60 minutes. I don't even care about the last few minutes. Cool. Swift is on my fantasy team. Hawkinson's on one of my fantasy teams. I love the stats. I don't care about those 11 points. I really wish they had gotten shut out. It would have been more impactful had they not scored. And I'm not the guy who's bringing the heat. Somebody's got to be fired. There'll be guys on the radio tomorrow suggesting someone gets fired. There'll be people calling in saying they're going to go 0-17. There's going to be someone somewhere who blames Sheila Ford Hamp for this loss, for the condition of this team right now. I will not do that. I will not do that. I will say to you, I believe in Brad Holmes. But by the way, this is why Baltimore and Minnesota hurt so bad. Both of those games should have been wins. And I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, had you gotten that win out of it, now it becomes about where's the win? Now it becomes about, I don't know where it is. It's not next week. My man is going to light us up next week, right? And I'm not apologizing for still loving Matthew Stafford. He's going to light us, but he might not. It might not even take him lighting us up to win the game easily. But that's why Minnesota and Baltimore hurt so bad. They didn't hurt because of the record-setting field goal. They hurt because if they're 2-4 right now, it's not a big deal. They got those wins. So SOL guy kind of can shut up. Because at 2-4, I would say to him, what did you expect? This is 2-4 team with that schedule and this talent. There were two. Now people are going to start talking nonsense, right? You're not beating the Rams. Philly. I don't know. You go into the bye 0-7, 0-8. If you go into the bye 0-8, that's a long 2 weeks. And then I think you got Pittsburgh and Cleveland coming out. I'm not sure you can beat either of those teams. You know what? Can you beat the Bears on Thanksgiving? They manhandled you in Chicago, but you played horribly. You're not telling me the win is the day after Christmas against Atlanta, right? I don't have to accept that as my reality. Do I? I don't know that I do. But here's the thing. This is a bad football team that has no depth. And young players and not very talented players make the kind of mistakes that we saw today. Now, for me, still goes back to Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes, you're on the clock. We need talent. We need talent. I don't know how you evaluate Dan Campbell. If you're the guy out here saying you know whether or not Dan Campbell's a good coach, cool. If you're the dude who's going to call the radio station tomorrow and say, these players aren't playing for him, he cried last week and this is the effort he got, you're just that jackass. You're just that jackass. And I don't even want any parts of you. I don't want any parts of you. The injury report is legit. And if you don't think it matters, you're a different kind of cat. Sorry. This is a team that was average and they've lost like 6 good players. So now they're just bad. The players on the team are not as good as players on the other team. I don't want to talk about any of the nonsense, right? I won't. I'm not going to do he cried at the press conference. I don't care if he cried at the press conference. Last week I talked about it and I understand why. And everyone who has any brains has talked about it as that's who he is. He's an emotional guy and he felt bad for his players. I respect that. Now, you're going to hear some idiot. They might work at the radio station. They're more likely going to call in. It's going to be, Jim from Ypsilanti. I think the effort yesterday proves that they don't want to play for this guy. They don't like this coach. After he cried, they should have came out and played better. Okay, you're just that jackass. And I'm predicting it. I know it's going to happen. I don't even want to hear it, right? Brad Holmes is on the clock, right? Stafford money comes off the cap. They'll have an opportunity to do something with free agency. You got 2 1s, 2 and a 3. You got to add talent. So I'm going to talk a little bit of social media, see what's going on our page. I'm going to talk about this try hard, don't quit bullshit. I'm done with that. Sorry, the language might not be great. I think I put out a warning though. So I'm going to talk about penalties and mistakes and beating yourself. And that segment almost certainly is not for children under 18. And then we got to talk about Jared Goff a little bit. So we got a lot more work to do. So I'm going to start off with the social. Let's just see what's happening over there. So, all right. Oh, we got a lady. Carol says, do you really think 0-17 is out of the question? Yes, I do. And I know who I am and I know what this podcast is, but I'm not even going to be that. I'm going to try and be logical and reasonable. I think that the gap, oh man, but they're so bad. The gap between teams in the NFL is not as big as we think. Now, forget that. Forget that part. That's stupid. This is what I'm going to say. They have not played even 3 quarters of football in the same game. Like I said, we got a half against Green Bay. We got minutes against San Francisco. We didn't get much against Chicago. If I think they will eventually, irrespective of the talent deficiency that I cannot emphasize enough how talent deficient this football team is. Irrespective of that, they're going to put together a game. And I don't know which one it is. It could be a Pittsburgh or a Cleveland. I don't think it'll matter if it's next week. The worst thing they could do is play their best game next week because they're still going to lose. The Rams are just significantly better at every position, everywhere on the field. I contend the best 7 players on the field next week might all be Rams. Hawkinson, sorry. No. 6 of the best 7 might be Rams. Philly, maybe it's a home game. The Eagles aren't great. If they put together an A- game at home, Philadelphia's not, you can get the win there. I don't want to, I just, the Bears are playing better, but I don't love the Bears. Home again on Thanksgiving, I don't know. All this may not matter because they're just not that good, right? So where's the win? No, I think there's a win. So to answer your question, I do not think they're going 0-17. I think this was a team I thought could win 7 or 8 games, now can win 2 games, maybe 3. Atlanta the day after Christmas. I'm not sure the Packers will have anything to play for week 18. There's opportunities to win games out there. They just need to put together, even as bad as they are, put together 60 minutes, put together 45 minutes of football, 50 minutes of football. You don't have to be perfect. Put together a good 3 quarters on the right day. I don't know how good Denver is, right? I don't, like I said, Thanksgiving against Chicago. Philly is possible if you play well. I think Atlanta's down there at day after Christmas, like I said. There's opportunities. So I don't know, Carol, but nice try. I don't know. I want to just go, you're being ridiculous and call you names, except I watched today's game, and I cannot do that. So let's see. So Matt says, which loss do you prefer, this one or Baltimore? What? Wait, what? Okay. Which one's better, getting shot in the leg or getting shot in the arm? You still got shot, Matt. Look, I don't even know. I might be being a jerk. Do I not understand the question? Which loss do you? I don't prefer any losses. First of all, there is no better way to lose, right? Those people who believe they played well enough to beat Baltimore are probably nice people. But the fact, the data, they lost the game. Same thing with Minnesota. I would like to not get shot. I'm not answering that question. That's a dumb question. I get what he's trying to say. Today, they just played horribly all game. It was a really tough watch. All right, I'm going to dial it back. He's not being a jerk. I think what he's saying is heartbreaker or just stinker. I'd rather not get shot. I'm going to stick with I'd rather not get shot. Yeah, I'm not the one to ask that question. There's guys, they'll do that on the radio tomorrow or whatever. I'm not that guy. I'd rather not get shot because my arm is going to bleed and my leg is going to bleed. And I got muscles and tendons and tissues in both. I'd rather not get shot. Yeah. Yeah. So, one more. Why should we? Okay. All right. Gary, why should we continue to root for this team? Gary, I don't really give a damn if you continue rooting for this team or not. You don't have to. My guess is you don't have a choice. You can post whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. The real fans don't have a choice. The people who actually listen to and enjoy my podcast don't have a choice. That's why we are who we are. We don't have the luxury of saying, I'm just going to be a Patriots fan. You're an idiot. You were never a Lions fan anyway. If you can do that, good riddance. We don't even want you. And that's not I'm sticking with my team. Real fans don't have that option. I don't even ever understand that question. Someone once asked me, why are you a Lions fan? Because I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan. And I went to my first game when I was 8. And that was it. It was a wrap. I saw that picture of Bubbles in the middle of the Silverdome carpet. And I was like, wow. You could call it an illness if you want. I don't really care. But real fans, no, you don't have an option. If you're the real fan of a good team, there's no way. And I've lived in different places and I've lived in other cities and people are like, well, why are you wearing that gear? Because this is my team. And when I moved, I didn't burn all my Lion stuff and buy stuff for this team because that would just make me a jackass. And those people are out there. But the kind of person that will listen to this podcast and enjoy it even a little bit, y'all know what I'm talking about. We don't have a choice and we don't want a choice. They did a really good piece on the pregame on Fox. I hope you caught it. They did a great piece on the pregame. Real fans, we don't do SOL. We don't call and say the Fords need to sell the team. Those idiots that call the radio station and say that stuff. And not everybody that calls the radio station is an idiot. Let me make sure I say that. And I almost never talk about on-air talent. Those guys are generally smart and they're really good at their jobs. Understanding that their jobs is to evoke emotion in the people that want to call the radio station. So they will say and do and tweak and deflect and craft a narrative that is designed to get people to call the radio station because that's their jobs, right? I'm fine with that. Even the ones that I don't like and don't agree with, I get what their job is. Called Root for Radio. That's what it's called. I get RFR. I get it. But a lot of them, a high percentage of them are that dude. Dumbass Dan, that jackass, whatever term I decide to use on a given day, that's who they are. They're a guy who loves the team, but he would rather be that jackass who calls in and bashes his team. I never get people that bash their own team. I don't get that mentality. If it's some East Coast New York thing or some delusional concept that by bashing your team or trying to get the coach fired, you're holding the team accountable, that is all utter and complete nonsense. It is. The idea that the family that owns the team only cares about making money. That's my favorite guy. Fords don't care. Ford Field is sold out there making money. They don't care if the Lions win or lose. You are a moron. If you believe William Clay Ford didn't want to win a Super Bowl more than damn near anything else, that man loved that team. That man wanted to win a Super Bowl. If you don't think that's what Martha was trying to do when she ran the team, you're just not a smart person. You're that guy. And if you don't think Sheila wants to win, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. So my statement to you is I don't really give a damn. If you don't want to root for the team, don't root for the team. We won't miss you. And I say we because I know who I am. And I am 100% sure there's a ton of people just like me. A ton of people just like me. And we're going to root for our team no matter what. You can call your friends on the radio and tell them all you want about us. People like us. Call us lemmings, call us slappies. We don't give a damn. We don't give a damn. And when that day comes, you're going to be right there at Hart Plaza with your jersey on, acting like you weren't walking around saying, I'm Lions free and I'm SOL and blah, blah, blah. To hell with you guys. I don't care who you root for, Gary. Go find yourself another team. Doesn't matter to me. If you got to ask that question, you're not a real fan and we don't really want you. All right, enough of those. Enough of those. I did not expect or intend for this to be. Yes, I did. Never mind. That's a lie. I knew this game bothered me. Yeah, but that's okay. So let's talk about this concept of try hard, don't quit, because I'm done with that. That's nonsense. It was cute. It was nice. People were saying it. It was fun. I'm done with that. You got to win a football game. You got to win a football game. That's it. I don't like your chances next week, but you got to win a football game. I don't want to hear how hard you didn't try hard today. You didn't not quit today. Today you played a complete game. It was complete. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm done with it already. Well, not quite. I'll be done with it when we're done with this podcast. I'm letting this game go and moving on. But yeah, you played a complete game today. You got to somehow. I wouldn't even watch this film. I don't know about what Dan Campbell would do. I'm not gonna do that whole game of he cried and they didn't respond. I don't really care about try hard. I don't care about any of that. You're not talented. That's what you are. You're not talented. So trying hard to get there on a given play, only to come in out of control and miss a tackle like Alex Anzalone did 4 times today. To take the wrong angle or the wrong hole like Will Harris did twice today. Doesn't matter. To jump the route and not make the interception like Tracy Walker did today, doesn't matter, right? When your team gets an interception and you prioritize standing over the guy you hit and flexing only to get your team a 15-yard penalty. So now instead of at the other team's 23 in a 7-0 game in field goal range, which changes the plays you're going to call, you are now back at the 38. Penalty and sack later, that drive's dead. Nice job. That try hard shit doesn't matter anymore, right? The play calling didn't help. I don't understand why you call a play that has a 4-yard route on 3rd and 8, because we already know who Jared Goff is. Jared Goff is the guy who's going to throw the 4-yard route. Well, first of all, the defense is going to give you the 4-yard route. And Jared Goff's decision-making process is such that he's going to see a guy open at 4 yards. His mind, his training, his coaching is going to tell him, throw that pass to that guy wide open at 4 yards. And let's get him to make a play to get the other 4. Problem is you don't have Jamar Chase, right? You don't have DK Metcalf, right? You don't have D-Hop. You don't. You got Kadero Hodge. You got Khalif Raymond. All due respect to the Raymond and Hodge families, we know what that means. So stop calling those plays. If you need 8 yards on 3rd down in a competitive game, there should be a play in your playbook where every single route is deeper than 8 yards. Challenge them to make a play. Challenge your own people to make a play. Do not give Jared Goff the option of a guy wide open at 4 yards when you need 8, because he's training his mind, his eyes, everything about him says throw it to the guy at 4 yards and let him make a play. Except that guy's not going to make a play because the other team's middle linebacker knows you're going to throw it to that guy. And guess who's going to make the play? He's going to make the tackle and you're going to punt. Sometimes take it out of the hands. Some of that's coaching. And I love Anthony Lynn. You're not going to find many. I don't think he should have been fired last year. I think he's doing a really good job with the talent that's there. And everything I'm saying, any criticism to anybody is laying on a foundation of they're not very talented. They don't have that many good players. That's a reality, right? And that's why this becomes tough. That's why this is a thing where I don't love how Tracy Walker played today. I don't know why, as much as I like Derek Barnes and thinks he's going to be a good player, when you're down 17-0 and you break up a pass, which is simply your job, exactly what you should have done, exactly what you're expected to do. You should not get up and do a gesture and celebrate because the scoreboard suggests you're getting your ass kicked. Why are you happy that you just stopped yourself from getting your ass kicked more? That's what you're celebrating. We're not down 24. We're only down 17. As a fan, I don't want to see you celebrating a pass breakup in a 17-0 game. I don't want to see that. You got to know that. And you can give me some crap about I worked hard all week in practice and I made a play. Then you're kind of selfish because what should have taken place was crap. We're still down 17-0. I don't know. This mentality thing, and I call it a culture. I've talked about a culture, right? The culture of calling plays, giving Goff the option of the 4-yard route is not going to work, right? The culture of stand over guy and flex after you made a hit without the understanding that you're about to cost your team 15 yards, at minimum 3 points, and potentially an opportunity to get back into a game in the first quarter. You've got to know that. That's part of the culture as well. This isn't the second quarter. You're an 0-5 team. What the hell are you celebrating? I don't understand that, right? That is part of the culture. You got to have guys who know that making that play in the second quarter is his job, is the expectation, is the baseline bare minimum. You're supposed to make that play. You should not be standing there flexing, getting us a 15-yard taunting penalty, because that's who you are. You're the idiot who cost your team 15 yards instead of the guy who's a good player who made a good play. That it's small stuff like that. And then he comes back later and I get it. The offensive player got his hand in there. You got to jump that route faster and make that interception. Right? I don't know how to ignore those things when I see them. Right? So some of it is coaching, some of it is players. The try hard mentality doesn't mean anything when you don't have talent. Right? Your bad players can try as hard as they want. Doesn't matter because they're just not that good. They're not that good. And the real problem, well, not the real problem. One of the problems, there's no way to get better this year, guys. We got to do this. Say they're 0-6. We got to do this 11 more times. I mean, we don't have to, but I'm going to. 11 more times because they're not very good. And the birthday boy, my brother, is like, Odell Beckham. Nope. Can't do it, bro. Love you, man, but we cannot do that. Odell makes more than 15 million. He's in or around 30, and he's got multiple leg injuries. That is a bad organizational move. Brad Holmes wouldn't even take that call. He shouldn't take that call. You have to be patient and you have to take these bullets, right? I don't know what Dan Campbell said in the press conference. I just wanted to forget this game. I didn't look up any stats. I didn't watch any post game. I was like, forget it. I'm doing the podcast from what I'm feeling and we'll go from there, right? You can't do that though. But the try hard mentality is done. I'm done with it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm not going to use the word culture anymore until they win a game. You got to win a game to get me to start selling people on your culture, to get me to try and get people to appreciate the try hard, right? I'm done with that. So, all right, let's talk about beating yourself, right? I spent time defining the difference between losing and getting beat. I almost feel like I need to come up with a third one, beating yourself, which might be the same thing as losing. So today was a complete loss. Everybody contributed. Every phase of the game, everyone contributed to this loss. And I could go through everybody, but I'm not going to. There are people who think, well, the defense didn't play that horribly. They did a decent job. They deserve to be. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They did what they've been doing all year, which is if it's a big third down and there's this guy in the stadium, the announcer or whatever, he does this thing. Detroit, it's third down. I think he thinks he's doing something good. I think this is supposed to get us hype and excited. It doesn't. It lets us know the other team's about to get a big play because the Jamar Chase big play late in the half that set up a field goal, that was a big play. We saw it coming. My brother literally predicted the Joe Mixon touchdown. When they were going for it on fourth down, I think play was stopped because of a TV timeout. Maybe it was 2-minute warning, whatever, before the play. And I'm not making this up because it's his birthday. He sent me a text and says, they're going to score on the next play. They're going to score. And sure enough. And all he wrote back was, what did I tell you? And I was like, wow. Okay. We know what the other team is in a and when you play 2 good downs and you get them in 3rd and 15, and then T. Higgins runs a simple curl route for 15. It's not Joe Burrow dumping it down to a guy at 7, expecting him to get the other 8. That's what we do. When it's 3rd and 14, they have T. Higgins run a 15-yard run. Maybe it was 3rd and 12. T. Higgins ran a 14-yard curl. I don't think it was a curl. It was an end route, whatever it was. But he was wide open. Why? Because Amani Oruwariye was playing 12 yards off of him and didn't get there. Or maybe it was Jerry Jacobs. Maybe it was AJ Parker. It doesn't matter. Fill in the blank guy, because he's not talented enough. He has to play way off. And that's the thing. The penalties and the beating yourself stuff is a talent thing. It is, I'm not good enough to play tight man coverage. Another thing my brother sent me. Why are we not playing something of a bump and run? Because if they need 15 yards, my theory, which came up last week and in other weeks, when you're rushing 5, do guys even have time to run a 20-yard route? I don't know. But today, the execution on both sides of the ball was unreal. They had penalties in 2 of the first 3 plays. You blink your eyes and it's 3rd and 16. That drive's dead. That drive's dead. I don't know how you do that. I talked about Tracy Walker flexing. That the impact of that little play is so big. I think that, I don't know if they'll point it out, but for him to get that flex penalty, I'm calling it a flex penalty. I'm going to stand over that because so the play is the Bengals have the ball. He hit the guy who was supposed to catch the ball. Ball pops up in the air. We get an interception. And after he hit him, he stands over him and literally flexes, says something as well. So he made sure he was going to get his money's worth. Flag. Instead of having the ball at the Cincinnati 21, already in field goal range in a 7-0 game with your entire playbook open, now you've backed up. You're backed up 15 yards to their 38. You are not in field goal range, by the way. A penalty and a sack. Now you're out near the 50 and you're punting. That is the kind of stupid stuff that I can handle. The Amon-Ra St. Brown turnover. You got to make that catch. That's a beating yourself thing. You got to make that catch. I don't know that it's easy, and I'm not suggesting it was. But if you got the ball, when you hit the ground, I get that there's going to be some movement or whatnot, but you got to make that catch. That's a big catch. That's a big play in the game. And you turn it over, right? I think there's so many blown assignments that lead to guys wide open. They keep using the term communication errors, like a corner and a safety are not on the same page. That might be a young guy, that might be a new guy, that might be bad system, that might be wrong play call, how we're communicating in signals. There's literally 6, 7 different ways that happens, but it happens to the Lions multiple times every game. And specifically today, tackling sucked, right? So my point about all this, beating yourself, that kind of stuff, it all goes back to the beginning of the podcast or the beginning of the relaunch after I dropped off. It's talent. Good players don't do that. Good players don't need to hold. Good players don't commit pass interference. Good players don't drop catches. Good players don't fumble. It's talent. I'm convinced now it's talent. And that's Brad Holmes' job. I am still on the Brad Holmes bandwagon. That's his job. And I think he'll get it done. He's got the capital. He's got the cap space. They will be better. This is going to be a tough year. The rest of these 11 games, some of them are going to be brutal. Some of them are going to be fine. Some of them are going to be brutal, period. There's no other way around it. Next week might be tough. I'm bringing back my segment called Stafford. I know that. But next week might be real tough. A tough watch, tough score, tough podcast. But I'll be here. That's fine. And in the spirit of that, to segue right to our quarterback, I got to talk about Goff. I've given him 6 games, and I started the season saying I'm on the Goff bandwagon. I'm going to roll team Goff until I'm not. And so what I've decided, what I see is I know who Jared Goff is. The problem is, how do you evaluate him? Feel free to hit me up on Twitter because I need to know. He doesn't have any weapons, right? His best receiver is DeAndre Swift. Oh, TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, a tight end and a running back. Now, Tyrell Williams might have been the take the top off the defense deep threat that changes the way defense play. A defense plays. Maybe. He might not have been. We don't know. I don't really care if they released Brashad Perriman. Apparently, he wasn't doing what they needed him to do. And again, this is no disrespect to Khalif Raymond, Kadero Hodge, Amon-Ra St. Brown. None of them. They don't have a receiver that separates, that does what Jamar Chase did. They don't have that. They can do what Justin Jefferson can do. They don't have it. They certainly don't have a Devontae Adams. These are just guys they've played. They don't have a Allen Robinson in Chicago. They don't. They do not. This is part of Jared Goff, though. So do you truly say that Goff sucks? Or when he drops back behind an offensive line that has lost its Pro Bowl center and it's really good left tackle and it's playing with guys either out of position or backups in front of him, right? He drops back and he goes through his progressions. One is never an option. I like Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond's not an NFL number 1. That's not even an insult. Khalif Raymond, in a moment of honesty, will look you in the eye and say, no, I'm not a number 1 in the NFL. I'm playing number 1 because 2 other dudes are hurt. Quintez Cephas was getting better. Probably still only a number 2. But if your third best receiver is playing X, not even your third, because St. Brown might be your third, but he's a slot guy. How do you accurately evaluate the quarterback? If he's got no receivers that can get open, create separation downfield, his only big play threat is tight end. How do you evaluate? So I still don't know what Jared Goff is, and that's the worst position to be in. He has ball security issues. He fumbles too much. But his completion percentage is ridiculous. Why? Because he checks down. He's captain check down. Of course his completion percentage is great. He dumps the ball off. He had a couple of nice plays to Hawkinson, but that's it. And if the other team can go into the Wednesday meeting thinking we don't really need to worry about Khalif Raymond, in terms of not really worry, we don't need to double anybody. You can have your safety, Spy Hawkinson. We don't have to double anybody. That's like they've got an extra player. When you play the Cardinals, you have to worry about you have to have a game plan for DeAndre Hopkins. When you play the Packers, you have to have a game plan for Devontae Adams. When you play the Lions, you do not have to have a game plan for anybody not called TJ Hawkinson. That's important if you're trying to evaluate Jared Goff. So I just don't know how to evaluate him. I want to sit here and tell you guys, I know who Goff is. They need to move on. Or I know who Goff is and we've got our quarterback. I would love to. He did some stuff I hated today. Like they showed the replay and didn't do him any favors, right? On the fourth down when DeAndre Swift was literally wide open, but he was locked in on Hockenson. He missed Hockenson on a really easy throw that if he floats the ball, it's a fourth down. There's turnover, right? If he just, no, that was the third down. Then they ended up turning it over on the next down. But if he floats that ball, it's another big play for Hockenson, right? By the way, quick Dan Campbell side note, I did not love going for it on fourth down at your own 28 or whatever it was. That's a dumb call. Just because it worked and you got it doesn't make that any less a dumb call. You got to cut that nonsense out, please. But back to Goff. The thing about Goff is this. So I'm probably unfairly evaluating him because he doesn't have receivers. But last year and previously, I always talked about quarterback play in two terms, and I will not change: decision-making and arm talent. What I've realized in 6 weeks is that when you have arm talent, you make different decisions. Sounds simple. I'm laughing as I'm saying it because, duh. Jared Goff cannot make decisions that Matthew Stafford made. He doesn't have the arm talent, right? With arm talent like number 9, there's a confidence. So 9 would try stuff that Goff will never try. Doesn't mean he's scared. Doesn't mean he's soft. It doesn't mean any kind of negative thing. It means he knows who he is. He knows he's not number 9. He knows that the thing hanging from his right shoulder is not the same thing hanging from the right shoulder of Matthew Stafford. So when he drops back and he goes to X and he sees that man is blanketed and he goes to Y, he's coming back to DeAndre Swift or Hockenson on a check down. That's how his decision-making process works. And you can't even blame him for that because that's what he's been taught. That's what he's been taught. Now, on other teams with better receivers, he looks at his X and his X is open. So he can make that throw. Or he looks at his X and goes to his Y and his Y is open. And these are your X and Y receivers for those who are, what is he talking about X and Y? Your number one receiver should be your X. In the playbook, they use the letters X, Y, and generally Z is the slot. Hockenson might be the Z in the Lions playbook. I don't really know. I've never seen the playbook. But the idea is that you have someone on the outside who has speed and runs good routes. Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, whatever. You have a Y who also runs good intermediate routes. And then your Z might be a Tyreek Hill, or the best Z is like when Golden Tate was here. Golden Tate ran really good underneath and intermediate routes, and Golden Tate would get open a lot. If you have a tight end like a Travis Kelce, he can be your Z, he can be your Y. Hell, in some teams, Travis Kelce would be an X. But that's kind of the concept that I'm talking about. When your X and Y are both down, and Tyrell Williams and Quintez Cephas, not Quentin Cephas, Chris Myers, still pissed about that. When Williams and Cephas are down, you now have Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra is still the Z, but you have Khalif Raymond and who's the guy I just badmouthed? Kadero Hodge, which I didn't mean to. This is your X and Y, and they're coverable. They're coverable because they're either not as tall as Williams and Cephas. They're not as big and strong, so they're easier to cover. You can chuck them. You can do whatever. Or they're not as fast, right? They're not as good is what it is. They're better than me, better than most people because they are NFL receivers, but they're not guys who can create separation, who run routes as good as those guys, who can body up defenders, go up and high point a 50-50 ball. They're not that. And again, I'm very, very careful. They're probably good guys. I don't know them. And they're NFL players. So there's that. But when you're Goff and every time you drop back, X is not an option, Y is not an option, you're coming back to Hockenson and Swift. I don't know how to evaluate. Those are good decisions most of the time. They're good decisions. Now, he locked in on Hockenson on the fourth down where he should have saw Swift wide open on the right side. That's a decision. You cannot not see DeAndre Swift wide open in the flat because that play probably scores a touchdown. Swift's got to outrun a linebacker. That's a bad decision to not throw it to Swift. The impact of that decision, though, was like when Stafford had the arm talent, he could make certain throws. He could throw guys open. That's what the term throw guys open mean. I have a good enough arm. I can put the ball there. Jared Goff is honest enough with himself to know that he doesn't have the level of arm talent that allows him to make certain decisions. So he just doesn't. He just checks down, which is, again, what his training, what his coaching, what his decision-making process tells him to do. So then is it fair for me to be mad at him? I don't know. I know I don't want him trying to make throws he can't make. That is real ugly. That is not what we want him to do. I don't know that I can be mad at him when he locks on Hockenson. It's his best receiver, security blanket. That's going to happen. You got to see Swift open somehow. I can't give him a pass on that, right? But Matthew Stafford knew what he had hanging from his right shoulder, and he had confidence. So he had a whole different level of options that Jared Goff does not have. He had the whole play is different because Stafford's got 4 options. Goff's got 2. Even if the same guys are playing receiver and they're not quite open, Stafford knows he's got a gun. He has confidence in his gun, and he'll try it. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes he would throw an interception. But more often than not, he made stuff happen, right? The confidence that Stafford played with was born out of talent hanging from his right arm. Jared Goff's a talented quarterback in the NFL. He's not number 9. And because he doesn't have the gun that number 9 has, he cannot possibly have the confidence that number 9 has. And oh, by the way, he doesn't have the talent today playing receiver for him that number 9 has. Stafford spent the bulk of his career with Calvin Johnson on the field. And Calvin Johnson was open even when he was double covered. And if you're doubling or tripling Calvin, guess what? Golden Tate or somebody else is open. Then he had Kenny Galladay sometimes, Marvin Jones. Jared Goff has none of those dudes. He doesn't have Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, certainly doesn't have a Calvin. He has none of those guys. I'm simply saying, and it sounds like an excuse. It sounds like me eating Goff cornbread. I don't know. I still don't know. I had hoped to know 6 games in. And I think it doesn't matter. I think it's important for Brad Holmes to know at the end of the season. But it's going to be tough. I don't know how you accurately and fairly evaluate Jared Goff with the offensive line in shambles and the wide receiver room consisting of what it consists of. I don't know that you make the mistake of going out trying to acquire some expensive receiver because you're not good in so many places. That doesn't really make you a better team. I think you stay patient. You take the arrows, and they're coming. They're coming. You know, jackasses on the radio tomorrow are coming with Campbell should be fired. The team doesn't play. They're going to come with all the nonsense, right? We know that. We know who they are. And this was a tough watch. Oh, yeah, no doubt. I didn't love it. But next week's probably going to be tougher. So get ready for that. We can come back and do this again. I don't know what to say. It's going to be tough. I don't know where the win is. If you got some ideas, let me know. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, even with the technical difficulties. I'm always looking forward to doing it again. We're going to get a win. Carol or whatever your name was. We're going to get a win. I believe we're going to get a win. So I hope you enjoyed both of the podcasts today. If you did, let me know somehow, rating, review. If you didn't, I'll be better next week. Maybe not. I don't know. So appreciate you joining me. Hope you enjoyed it. Try and go enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. And we will talk to you next week. All right. Have a good one.